Hello, ladies. Happy Monday. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. We were just saying maybe it's Mercury retrograde. Welcome to everyone who's watching on our Facebook end. If you're watching on YouTube or on our Facebook members only, we're so happy you're joining us. I am Violet Dayal. I'm the founder of FemCity, and we meet and gather every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. 12 p.m.-ish Eastern Time, and I always invite some of our global members to join the conversation. This month, we are kicking off with self-love, the month of February, and if you're watching us live, feel free to engage, comment, share aha moments. Shoshana's already joining us on the comment section. Shoshana was one of our panelists, but had some technical difficulties. We're hoping that she can join us. We had some already too. I couldn't find my notes. It's just been like, we're just going to throw it out to being a wonky Monday, but we're not going to let it stop us for sure. So today we're going to talk about self-love and wellness. If you're joining us later on in the library or on YouTube, feel free to continue the conversation. You can feel free to tag myself or any of our panelists. We're here to help you. Our intention is to help you navigate through self-love and wellness. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce to you our panel. Let's go to Lori. Lori, you may know Lori already. Lori was on our panel, I believe, last Monday, and I'm so excited that she came back. Lori, can you share one or two sentences about what makes you an expert when we talk about self-love and wellness?
Well, I'm the founder of the More in Me movement, and the whole impetus behind it is this idea. When I discovered I have more in me, and believing that every one of us does. And that happened when I started to love myself, like connect to my heart center and all that matters about me. And then it evolved from there. So it's really the passion of what I do.
Love it. Love it. Let's go to Lisa. Lisa, share a little bit about yourself. You're obviously a FemCity Global member, and you're also one of our collective leaders in Markham. And what makes this something that you're excited to talk about?
Yeah, this topic really resonates with me. Thanks so much for having me on the panel. I'm an educator, a teacher, 27 years. I'm an entrepreneur as well, and recently an author. And the subject matter that I dove into for the chapter in the book that I co-wrote, Women Let's Rise, was about trusting your intuition. And I think the foundation of that path of trusting your instincts, trusting your gut, comes from first loving yourself and knowing yourself. So this is definitely a topic that I embrace and I'm passionate about.
Beautiful. Shelly, welcome. Shelly is first time on our panel, and she's also a FemCity Global member. What makes you so loving this topic that we're covering today?
Well, I've been a registered dietitian, nutritionist for over 20 years, so I have always been in the arena of wellness. Of course, there's many components of wellness, so I do focus primarily on the physical wellness, but do recognize there's many other components of wellness and how people can help themselves, and integrating all of these aspects is so important to have people be aware of not just one aspect. Or just as a dietitian, people only think of eating well when they want to lose weight rather than helping their overall health and well-being. And that's just another aspect of wellness, having that confidence to take care of themselves and be well and be healthier is a big thing. And I could talk for hours, so I'll stop. Share the light here.
Love it. Love it. So welcome, and thanks again for taking the time this morning or this afternoon to share with us your wisdom. And Shoshana says, I need to give myself some love in this tech moment. Absolutely. 2020 was one of those things that taught me, I thought I had really strong self-love. But when the technology, 2020 was just like a whole bunch of misfits of my computer would crash and my Wi-Fi would shut down. That's definitely, I found self-love in the tech world as well. So there's always self-love in all sorts of different areas where we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace. We've got Toppy's also joining us from New York. Good morning. And we've got two other femmes that are joining us as well. Happy Monday. So let's go ahead and dive in and talk about the combination between self-love and wellness, because I don't think it's ever been discussed in FemCity, that combination between the two. And so I like to start everything off on the same plane so everyone can kind of start at the same level of understanding. How would you describe or connect the combo of self-love and wellness? How would you define it so that those that are actually listening in can kind of figure out where they stand and what areas they need to go ahead? And let's go to Lori.
Well, I think it's an act of love to take care of ourselves and to put ourselves first, and especially for women. You know, I read a really interesting book not too long. Well, actually, it was a long time ago, at least 10 years, but it was called Women and Desire, and it was she wrote about Polly Young Eisendrath. She wrote about being the subject of our own desires versus the object of someone else's desires. And what she meant was, what is it that we need and want for ourselves rather than taking care of everybody else? And then the combo of that is, you know, this not good enough, the constant criticism that, you know, even society, you know, we have to be thinner and smarter and all these things we need to be more of, and this feeling that women often have. I know I certainly did. I grew up in a critical household of never feeling good enough. And I went for a run one day, a jog for 20 minutes, and something in me shifted. And from there, you know, I say the mind leads the body, but also the body leads the mind. And from that experience, it was the act of running that taught me how to care for myself, connect me to my heart center, and just really appreciate what I could do. You know, it was like, look at me. And it's been a 30-year journey, you know, of practicing it, because I don't know that we ever become super expert accomplished, but rather it's a practice every day. You know, get up, begin again, and say, you know, what am I going to do for me today? How am I going to take care of me? And that act of taking care is an act of love. And then it enables us to be our best at all the other things that we want to do.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned practice, because I feel like sometimes femmes in our community will feel more aligned with self-love. Maybe they've read a book, or they heard a class, or they took a class of ours, and they're feeling really great. And then something will happen and it will trigger, and then they'll kind of go back to that place where they're not loving themselves. And then they feel more frustrated. They feel more anxiety ridden, or that they're failures. And so I love that that's the idea that it's a practice, meaning that some days are better than others. Just like when you were younger and you'd practice cursive, you know, some days were better. Sometimes you were learning new things. And so I love that, because it gives you the grace in those moments where you're not feeling the most self-love because of some sort of exterior messaging or some sort of internal trigger.
Or that little voice that just likes to natter away.
Exactly. And you have some love that came through. So love is a high vibration. And so your cells and immune system are healthy in the frequency of love. And then you have a Facebook user said, love it, Lori. So great way to define that and describe it. How would you, Lisa, when we talk about that connection between self-love and wellness, what are your thoughts?
You know, the first thing that came to mind when I saw that we were doing this topic and combining the two concepts was the saying, you got to like yourself when you're by yourself. And I don't know where it originated, but the person I heard say it most recently, I've been listening to one of my favorite spiritual mentors, Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he was saying that in a conversation with Oprah, another amazing mentor. And it's so true. I think that the whole idea of really we can't expect to operate effectively from an empty tank. And that idea of filling ourselves up first is so crucial. So if we want to give love outwardly, whether it be to friends, family, even strangers, I think it's got to start with ourselves and loving and accepting all of us first and foremost. And something just to build on what Lori said a minute ago, if I can just read a little part of the chapter that I wrote, when you said putting yourself first, that's something that I had no idea how to do. And it's so crucial. And I'm glad you brought it up, because something I wrote in my chapter was that for me, it began through a process of reprogramming my belief system from seeing self-love and self-care as selfish acts to viewing them as necessary acts. ones that honor and validate my needs. So when you said that, Lori, I just thought, yeah, we're definitely on the same page there. That's something that resonates with me.
Yeah. And I know a lot of women also, I know myself, feeling selfish. I remember that first time of being a new mom 27 years ago, almost 27 years ago. I can't believe it. But having those, that I felt so selfish for taking time to want to read a book or step outside. So I don't know. And that's a whole other conversation of like how that even became part of our narrative, like how that even became. Shelley, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I really just want to piggyback on what Lori and Lisa said. Is one of the things that I found, and just thinking back to when I was in my 20s and just how I would not express how I was feeling or my emotions because I was so concerned about what other people thought about me.
Yes.
And it sounds silly to me to say this now, but really recognizing that how I felt or what other people thought about me should not depend on I shouldn't have depended on that, and how much it more mattered how I felt about myself. And also, in the hindsight, I don't think people make this connection, is that it can promote illness. Or I felt I was sick all the time. I was getting strep and that sort of thing. And I think it was the stress of really trying to please other people or being worried I wasn't, when most of the time they didn't care whether I was, they didn't care. But recognizing those emotions that I had and that self-love, that my feelings mattered. Not to the exclusion of other people, and it may come across wrong to some individuals, but my feelings mattered. And if other people didn't like me, that was not on me. And that really, when that switched in my mind, and it was a work in progress, but I became healthier in many aspects, not just in the self-love and not being selfish, but just physically, I felt better as well. Didn't cure everything, but
Yeah.
I felt better, a lot better.
I just had an aha moment listening to you, Shelley. So years ago, I talk about balance quite a bit and how I found balance. And I was sitting on 6 different boards, raising kids in 3 different schools and raising money for charities and starting FemCity and having my own practice, my own PR firm. And I hadn't realized until you said it now, I said no to all those board roles, even though I loved being a part of that. But I realized my balance was out of whack. And so I said no to all that. And I never connected it to I thought maybe it was the stress of not having that, but I'm thinking now it's the self-love part of putting myself first for the first time. My diabetes, I was pre-diabetic, went away. I had like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, that went away. My Hashimoto's. And I'm just listening to you and I'm like, oh my, because I keep thinking like, what was it? Did I give up dairy? Did I give up, because I'm plant-based for the most part, but I'm like, what did I give up that all of a sudden the health issues went away? But I think it was the connection with the stress and putting others first. Mm-hmm. Yes. So you just I was like, oh my gosh, duh. Like, that's exactly.
And I don't think most people don't even see or even consider that as a connection. They see food as one purpose and that's it, when really there's multiple things. And I just went through food, but all these emotions is so interconnected. And I don't think a lot of people make that connection, and just having a little nugget to help people make, like you said, aha, wow, maybe that was why I wasn't well then.
Yeah. I was getting pneumonia at least a couple times a year, bronchitis and sinus infections. I mean, it was like an everyday, like, oh, it's time for me to my sinus infection. Like,
I had all those and strep on top.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All right. So this leads perfect into my next question. What was the biggest challenge you faced when starting to really take on the practice of self-love? And my intention in asking that is, I want those that are watching or listening to recognize that they're not alone, that we all have challenges when we start really taking on self-love, that it's not just like, boom, I read this little poem and now I'm perfect and fixed and I love myself unconditionally. So that's my intention asking that question. So let's do the same. Lori, Lisa, and Shelley. Lori?
Well, I have to pick up on what you said, Violet. I had a 20-year corporate career and I burned out not once, but twice, literally burned out. You think once would be enough, but no. And it was this constant striving. I had a very successful career, but that's all I did. And my friends were at work. And it was, you know, also the bad habits, especially back then, because I was smoking, we drank a lot, you know, we go to these, I did a lot of marketing events. So we were, you know, partying like crazy. I think back now and it's just, honestly, like, I'm not even going to go there. Like, there's all these pictures in my mind of like coming back from a sales conference, you know, just being so wiped out on the train, and there's my boss across the thing, and it's all just the way it was. But it comes, and it was. I always wanted something, but I didn't have time. I didn't have time because my job mattered more, because I had to prove, you know, that I was worthy of more money and a bigger job and a better office and all that stuff. And so I was this constant striving, but it was that run. And all of a sudden I found a part of me, especially I grew up in a house full of boys. I had 4 brothers, no sisters, and my needs, I didn't matter. And I don't say that from a place of pity. It was just a fact. The whole world evolved around the boys. I was never encouraged to be active. And so it was just discovering almost by accident. Well, I had a friend who kept saying, run, go run, go run. But from there, it's like, oh, hey, I kind of like this, but I'd get up at 5:30 and run before my cigarettes. You know, I had to sort of plan my life around it. So bit by bit, I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking Saturday nights because I wanted to go for my long run on Sunday. And then I discovered yoga and how, oh, that kind of helps my running. You know, I became a little bit of one of those annoying running people for a while, but learning how to connect into me, being with me, like you said, Lisa, how to be comfortable with myself on my own. Well, when I'm out running for hours by myself, I had to be pretty comfortable. So it's just I say we need to discover practices, daily practices to shift your mood, move your body, and expand your mind. And I intentionally use the word practice, you know, like Violet was pointing out, because it's up and down. It changes day to day, and we just keep practicing. We keep coming back. We get up the next day. I didn't have the best weekend. I have a lot of personal crap going on, and I didn't do my yoga practice Saturday or Friday or Saturday. But yesterday I went for a long run. I got on my yoga mat and I woke up today. I had a great sleep and I feel good. And then, you know, like Shelley knows so well, our food is fuel. What we eat, what we put into ourselves affects our mood, our disposition, our ability to sleep, our energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa.
Yes, well, I was reflecting on that time period where I really started to embrace and actually practice this idea of self-love, because honestly, it was completely foreign to me in the years that I was married and raising my kids and a young mom. It was oftentimes, you know, you kind of have these aha moments in times of great personal upheaval, and for me that was the case. So going back to, you know, maybe about 2.5 years ago, when I was going through my separation, that's when I realized that, you know, things like your self-confidence, self-esteem, etc., take a hit, and what are you going to do to bridge that gap? So I found that I really had 2 big challenges at that time. One was around believing and accepting the kind words that I was saying to myself. I was really taking time and trying to be mindful about, you know, doing a consistent practice of mirror work and writing affirmations out and saying them out loud. But I found at first it was just so foreign, and that's why what Lori said is true. You have to find something that works for you and stick with it, because I found that through consistent practice, eventually those words stuck in my subconscious mind, and that process allowed me to really just reintegrate this new belief system that I was trying to, even though at first it was, you know, there was like these walls of resistance. So if femmes out there are feeling that, believe me, it's totally natural based on my own experience. But over time, I knew, for one thing, that the words, the unkind things that I was saying to myself were not supporting me at all. So I knew I had to make some changes. And the interesting thing that happened is that once I was able to overcome the obstacle of being consistent and doing it as a daily practice, then the belief started to fall into place. It was amazing. And I don't think I would be able to sit here and talk about it unless I'd gone through it myself. And
real back and forth, isn't there? Like,
yes,
one feeds the other.
absolutely. That was, was that first challenge about believing the words that I was saying seemed so daunting, but then just by saying it over and over and over, then that reprogramming kicked in. So,
That's, yeah, it reminds me also, I think spiritually, I know some femmes in our community, like when we do our spiritual kind of series, sometimes they feel like frauds or fake, right? Because they're like, I'm saying these words, these mantras that Violet or Lori or Shelley have told me to say, and I don't feel them. I feel like a fraud because they're just words. I'm not feeling them. But I love how you said eventually you do start to believe those. Because at first you're so not your biggest fan. Do you know what I mean? Like I've been there, like I was so not my biggest fan. And so saying the words I know I was supposed to be saying to get to this higher place of being, it does feel a little like a fraud and a little imposter-ish. Until you get to that place of more of awareness and more of a awakening, and you realize the beauty within yourself. And then it starts to, I found it to propel a lot faster. It's almost like now it was like, okay, now I've got this, but it takes a
momentum.
while.
Yeah.
Yes, it takes time to break. Shelley.
Oh, two things have come to mind about the challenges of taking on that practice of self-love is one of the things I do, one of the part-time things I do is I teach college classes. And we have evaluations, of course, because if you don't evaluate it, it didn't happen. And I'll have a class of 80 students. One student will have a negative evaluation. And even reading it, I'm just like, this isn't even accurate. But what is it I don't see? The 75, wow, I love this class. I learned so much and all this. I focus on the one. And that's just not just me. That's just our brain. Our brain is negatively biased to focus on that. And I get so invested in that one person who had a bad day when they were filling out their evaluation. And it's not like they were evaluating the book. They just had some attack on me. And I see years later, students who are my servers watching what I'm ordering, and they're like, oh, I loved your class. But what is it I still find that's one of the biggest challenges is letting that negative, the 1 or 5% negativity go and not take it personally. But one other thing that happened last year, and I'm sure a lot of people had this happen last year and it'll happen again this year, is I had a really bad day. Okay. Like very emotional, crying all day long. Nobody had that last year, I'm sure. And I was like, but I didn't want to reach out to anybody else because I was like, I'm not special. Everybody's going through the same thing. And after the fact, dozens of friends, when I shared with this, were like, you could have called me. You could have called me. You could have called me. And I still felt bad. I wasn't going to ask anybody to save me. It was more, I just need to vent. But I still felt bad. The idea of burdening somebody else with that. When not one person had said, oh my God, if you had called me, I would have hung up on you. Nobody said that. And even if they thought that, they're not in my circle anyway. But not when there's some emotions and you just need to share it. It's still tough sometimes to reach out and say, I'm really having a bad day today. But once I finally did, I spoke to my husband and I was very emotional. I'm like, I don't need you to fix it. Just sit there. Let me have it. And I was fine. And that obviously isn't going to work for everything, but it was more of just letting it out and being okay on so many levels. So, and as of course I was kidding, but really no, that saying, nobody else had that last year, but just be okay and know that there's a lot of people out there that will support and you're not burdening them.
Yeah.
that it's okay to do that.
Absolutely. So a lot of love came through. Let me push back a little bit, and not push back. Push up on the feed is what I meant, not push back. That sounded like aggressive. I meant like push back up on the feed. Sarah says, not silly, acceptance and validation are drives. And if the right support to work with us, we can all have more wellness. Shoshana says, I love cell and immune system talk, still a student. You can know so much and help others, but doing it yourself is still hard, even when you're in your business. And then we had a couple of Facebook comments as well. I can't see the name, but it's heart shaped, like little heart emojis. Yes, each day is a new day to grow and glow. I actually love that, grow and glow. Such great information. Topi, I always said her name Topi, but it's Topi. Topi, oh, I love that. So not my biggest fan for a long time. I wasn't. I love what Lori and Lisa said about the daily practice of speaking positivity of ourselves. And then Sarah says, yeah, struggle with letting go of negative self, active listening to hear, not to respond. Lots of great love comes through. So we need to share it. The person who we trust and won't judge, each one of us has that somebody. You know, it's interesting, but I took a class, a FemCity class a couple months ago, and I can't remember which global member it was, but she said something in her class that sometimes people share just to be heard. Mm-hmm. And I really took that upon myself. So when my husband has a really bad day, I listen, and then I'll ask the question, is it you want me to hear you, or you want me to help you find a solution? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just want you to hear me. And so that was a really great place, because I jump into solution mode, like, like repeat it. Like as soon as you start telling me a problem, I go into solution mode. And what I understand now looking back is that when you go into that solution mode, sometimes that person, they don't want you to find the solution. They just want you to listen to them. And that was a great tip that I learned from one of you amazing FemCity Global members. I can't remember which one, but it changed my conversation. Is that sometimes you just want, like you were saying, Shelly, sometimes you just want to say, I've had a really bad day. Could you just listen and give me a hug? That's all we, all right, let's talk about how to practice self-love, because I think some femmes might be saying, okay, great. I know I need to get my self-love groove on. It's February. We're going to be talking about it a lot at FemCity. What are some ways that you practice self-love? For myself, for me, fitness, my Pilates every morning and my spinning at night, and like some random walks through nature. I love being barefoot in the grass. Those are kind of some, ways that I have found a connection to my self-love. Lori, what are some ways that you practice self-love?
I get on my yoga mat every day, sometimes for 10 minutes. It does. And that's the other thing, when I was in my obsessive running, so the chubby smoking party girl went on to run a lot of long distances, and I did a lot of interesting things, but it's kind of like I've come full circle, and I don't have to do those big things all the time. Sometimes it's just the act of making time to get on my yoga mat for 10 minutes or go for a walk around the block before I go to bed. That's my commitment for this year, just to get some fresh air and move the oxygen around before I get into bed, because I want to have a good night's sleep. Of course, I run. In the summer, I'm out and active a whole lot more doing things. It's winter here. We have lots of snow. I've been going snowshoeing, even just going for walks, because the snow has been spectacular because it's really cold, so it's sparkly. The first thing I do actually every morning is decide, what am I going to do today from my taking care of myself? Having a glass of water, there's one. Our brains get dehydrated. Very first thing in the morning, we need to have a glass of water. I've also heard put lemon in it, which I do, but having a glass of water, put it beside your bed so you wake up and you see this water and you drink it. There's so many little things we can do. And again, it's practices, habits. And the overarching motivation for me to do this is I told myself, I want to run a marathon at the age of 99. I want to be healthy and vibrant and energetic at the age of 99. And so I make choices based on that. So I think what helps is to just think about, what do you really want for yourself? And then how can you do that in little bits and pieces? It doesn't have to be an hour and a half, but what are a couple things that you can do and do them every day? Like a glass of water, like a walk around the block, like yoga, like running, any of these things.
Love that. Lisa?
Yeah, just to add on to what Lori's saying, and I totally agree about it being, small acts and practiced daily. That's, I think, what makes the biggest impact. I've learned to incorporate a few tools over the past few years, but when I reflected on this question, I really realized that it's how I start my day and how I've overhauled that process that has had the most impact, I think, in recent times. And how I wish that I had that knowledge or that insight when I was raising my kids. And I think back to the harried mornings, starting with myself being in that frazzled mode, and how I could have avoided so much turmoil in those times of getting to school and work. But you know what, you learn what you need to in the time that you need to learn it, and I firmly believe in that. So not beating myself up for it, but I do wish I could go back in a time capsule and just do some redos there. But I've found that writing, so starting my day with gratitude. So writing in a gratitude journal is the first thing and that's become a practice. Whether it's 3 things or 10 things. Some mornings I can just keep writing, but it's just the act of doing it and doing it consistently that has made a big difference for me. I've also recently bought a whiteboard, and what I've done is created a ritual around writing quotes or just little love notes to myself on this whiteboard, but more importantly, placing it somewhere where I'm going to see it no matter what. So I've, this idea of stacking a habit that you want to do. Habit stacking is great, and I just recently learned about it. You have to go to the bathroom in the morning, so why not see something and do something that's going to fill yourself up on the way to, brushing your teeth or doing whatever you have to do for your day. So I have this whiteboard right in front of the bathroom, and I see it on my way there, and I just kind of can't help but look at it. So that's another way. And the last thing I'd mention that has been really transformational is doing daily check-ins. And it's no more than just a mental, just kind of sitting still and going through a couple of questions, really asking myself, how am I feeling in this moment? It doesn't have to be a moment that I'm stressed. It could be a moment that things are just going really smoothly, but really checking my internal battery and thinking in different areas, whether it be my mind, my body, my spirit, how am I feeling and what do I need at this moment? That's something I wrote about in my chapter as well. And it really allows you to be more mindful and present to giving yourself love, because then you can respond to yourself from a place of awareness.
Would be helpful if I unmuted myself. Love that. Shelley?
Well, I have a lot of physical habits that I do on a day-to-day basis. And as some people know, I have 3 dogs who are just absolutely rotten if they don't get their daily walk. So that is something that is absolutely done every single day. Rain, shine, 24 degrees or 90 degrees, not usually in the morning here. So I do have a lot of physical habits. But one of the things that I wrote down when this question came up is I don't let things build up. So if I'm feeling an emotion and I allow myself to feel that emotion, and it may just pass, it may be a fleeting information, I was offended by something and then I'm like, oh, I'm just being oversensitive or whatever. But it's letting things go. If there's something where I'm finding there's something where I need to clarify with somebody, like, what did you mean by that? Don't let it build up. Don't make up these stories in my head, but just clarify. And most of the time, it's not a big thing. And like I said earlier, just talk it out. And most of the time, it's already in the past, 20 minutes later. So I love all the habits, daily habits that you were talking about, Lisa and Lori, and I 100% agree with those. And I just wanted to add on, the self-love is owning what you're feeling. Own my feelings and be okay and recognize, yeah, I was hurt by that, but what's the big deal? Or I was hurt by that and I need to let this person know. I was hurt, not that they hurt me, but I was hurt and what was going on. And most of the time it was nothing. It was silly. It was a misunderstanding, or they misspoke, or I misheard. But really, not letting things build up is a huge, huge aspect of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we have some more love that came through. Let me go back and read some of them. Let me see. Facebook user said, yes, morning practices sets us for success. Thank you, ladies. Another Facebook comment, the first 15 or 20 minutes of my day is my sacred time for me, affirmations, meditations, and speaking my intentions for the day. Then speaking these things throughout my getting ready for the day. And then, oh my goodness, I absolutely love all of you women. What wisdom and grace. Thank you so much. Something that I started doing, reminded Shelly, when you were saying when you get your reviews and your surveys from your students and you have like that one negative and you've got like all these other 75, 100 positive raving how much they love you and that one negative one, that's such a human pattern. Mm-hmm. And I just want to mention like something that I did, because that was me. I was getting to Friday and I was like, I did nothing this week. There's another week that goes by, I haven't done a thing. And then, of course, humans go into, I'm such a loser, I'm no good at anything. And what I started doing is every day as things would show up, I write down my win. Just throughout the day, like if someone, like the other day, a really big person that has a lot of, reached out to me and was like, I love the work that you're doing. You inspire me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's like a, kind of like it's a celebrity. And so I was like, oh wait, so that went in my win, right? Mm-hmm. And then like, if I see that, we went up 246% on our email marketing clicks, I write that down, because what was happening is that these really great things were happening throughout the day, but I wasn't taking the time to like really embrace it. It was coming through, but it was like, oh yeah, that's great. On to the next thing. And then you get that one grouchy email and it would just kind of like just remove all this beautiful stuff that happened. So writing it down as it comes in, as soon as it comes in, I'll just write it down, because when that Friday comes and that human design of like, oh my gosh, I did nothing. Now we're in the first week of February. What have you done? I've done nothing, because humans will forget. You'll forget something absolutely beautiful that happened just an hour ago. So I have found that just writing down the wins as they occur really helped me to go back and say, you know what? Let me see what I did. Let me check the receipts to see. And then I'm like, oh, that's right. That person reached out to me. Or that's right. More people loved our email marketing. Oh my God, we added 10 new chapters. Like, how amazing. Like, it's really interesting how you were saying, Shelly, 75, 100 of those beautiful things you don't even notice, because that one person had a bad day and decided to write it out in a survey. You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, so yes. So Sarah says, is that where the Friday wins come from? That's where the Friday wins comes from. And not only that, Sarah, when we created our FemCity weekly downloadable sheet that you guys get for free in the portal, that's why it has the wins on the right-hand side. It has Monday through Friday to share your wins. So it actually has a space there that you need to fill out. It's my way of motivating you into writing down your wins. So, all right. So final advice that you guys have. And then of course, how can Femmes find you to learn more about the work that you're doing? And my question is, for those that are really kind of struggling and want to, and are going to take on self-love in February, they resonated with either everything you've said or maybe one or two sentences here and there. What is your final tip for them? And also, how can Femmes find you, Lori?
Be kind to yourself. We don't have to get it exactly right. We don't have to be perfect. And all these, doing things, are great and make a difference. But there's the internal part of just being kind to ourselves, and also remembering, like, the emotions are huge. What Shelly was saying about when she experiences an emotion, I think all of us have spoken about it. But to know that you can be sad and hurt, but that's just something you're feeling. It's not who you are. And that you can also be happy and joyful. You can have multiple emotions at one time, and just allowing them. And then, this idea of, I think there's two things. Give yourself permission to just begin again. Okay, didn't happen yesterday. How can I make today different? And then this idea of being okay with not knowing. I think because we're so worried about getting it right, and so many of the things that have already come up, that to just be in this discomfort of not knowing of what the end result is going to be, or an outcome, and just going ahead anyway. And that's an act of self-love, because it's like giving ourselves permission to not get it right and just see what happens. So I just wanted to give a couple of really quick, specific ones, though. I have yoga mats all over the house. So if I have put something on for dinner and it needs to cook or bake, I pull my yoga mat out, put it out on the floor beside the eating table, and I'll spend 10 or 15 minutes doing some sort of yoga because I didn't get it in that day. Some days I get up, put my running stuff on because I intend to get out there. 5 o'clock happens, I'm still in my running stuff. Well, I'm not going to take it off if I haven't used it. So I'll go out for a run literally for 10 or 15 minutes so that I at least get it done. So we have to sort of help ourselves do it, because even, I'm passionate about yoga, I'm passionate about running, I'm passionate about all these things. And some days it's like, well, whoops, it didn't happen. But I'm creating the easy opportunity for me to do that. So where you can find me on my website, lauriehunt.com, I have a free course on there on how to manage your mood. So your energy, your mood, because it's all related to all of what we're talking about. So you'll find it there on the online learning page. But it has lots of tips and ideas how to just shift your mood, shift your energy, and find that place of kindness. You can also find me on social media platforms, either at Laurie Hunt or at More In Me Movement. And thank you, Violet, for the opportunity to have this conversation. And it's always so much fun to learn from everybody else and their ideas.
Thank you. And so Shelly has to run. She's got a speaking gig in about 13 minutes. Shelly, do you want to skip ahead of Lisa and do your final tip? And that way, in case you have to dart out.
Sure. So how to find me, ShellyRyel.com. One of my active Facebook groups is called Real World Nutrition, where we talk about pizza, bagels, today, dark chocolate. It's just want to let people know everything, we eat in the real world. It's not a world of restriction and then falling off the wagon. It's just how we eat on a day-to-day basis. That's the dietitian in me. But final advice is what Laurie had said is, just because people don't do things perfectly today, and just here's a clue, nobody does. It doesn't mean we have to wait till next Monday to do it all over again. We can, as I say, you have another eating opportunity to eat healthier. You can start tomorrow. You can set yourself up for success. And really, from my point of view as a dietitian, I am not a fan of diets, but really helping people develop healthy habits. And part of self-love is having the confidence that you can be healthier. You don't have to wait you don't have to get healthier first and then have self-love. A lot of people reverse that. And I just want to encourage people to just take each day as it is and be okay with where you are and owning your emotions and being okay with that. Yeah.
Love that. And if you can stick around for a picture, Shelly, if not, if you have to go, we get it. So
I'm okay.
Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, I want to take a picture of us. All right, Lisa, take it away.
Yes. So for those who are struggling to either start or keep up their practice, I would just encourage you to be playful and open and willing to experiment with finding ways that resonate with your unique self. Because really the truth is there's no one size fits all on this. It's your journey. So be aware also, I think, of the temptation of comparing yourself to others who are at a different place in their journey. So, for example, meditation or yoga or forest bathing may be great for one person that you know and love, but it may not resonate with you or may not work for you. So, and you might, like we all tend to do, think, well, why, what's wrong with me? Why isn't that working for me? I just really encourage you to just keep trying different methods and something will stick. Absolutely. So, you know, and just coming from a heart space and from a place of knowing that you yourself are love, like your energy, our vibration is made from that vibration of love. So if you come from that space, you really can't go wrong when you have the intention of loving yourself first.
Love that. Lisa,
oh, where to find me? Absolutely. Please join me on Facebook or on Instagram. I loved Shelley's description of her group. I have a group called Eat Well with Lisa on Facebook, and that's also my handle on Instagram, because that brings out the entrepreneur side of me, being a consultant with Epicure and helping families to create healthy meals. So really resonate with what Shelley said. And for sure, find me on either of those platforms or on LinkedIn, and I look forward to having more chances to connect.
Love it. And then final, some more love that came through. Grace says, we are humans, so we go through different emotions, and that's okay. We fall, yet we rise again. We get hurt, yet we need to forgive, etc. The important thing is we move forward each day. If we can't run, walk, if not crawl, as long as we move. And then last one, this is the best use of my lunchtime. I put myself first and listened in, and so glad I did. Hugs. That makes us so happy. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We hope that this helps you with your self-love. Keep in touch. Reach out to all of us, one of us, none of us, whatever we can do to help you. Please let us know. Our intention is to see you guys really thrive in that self-love and wellness space. We'll be back next Monday. Love you, femmes. See you next time. And then for those panelists, stay on so I can take a picture if you can.